Alright, recently we picked up a new dashcam that has been getting a fair bit of praise online. So let's see how it is in the hand, how it looks on the glass, and how does the dashcam feel to use. We are not chasing spec sheet here. This one is about fit, finish, buttons, mount, menus, and day-to-day handling. Performance will show up later, but it stays in the background. First impressions start the second the box opens. The packaging is compact and clean, with each piece sitting in its own cutout so nothing rattles. That matters, because if a brand cares about how a product travels, it usually cares about how it holds up in real-life use. When we open the box, right on top, here's the manual, followed by the electrostatic sticker neatly placed underneath. On the left side, we can see a small accessory box with this rear camera and the power cord for the cigarette port. And then, on the right, the main dashcam sits securely in its own cutout, already fitted with a 64 gig microSD card. It's a well-organized packaging, and we liked it. We lift the main camera, and the weight feels balanced, solid enough to inspire confidence, not so heavy that the mount has to fight it. The shell is a matte graphite gray that hides fingerprints and small scratches, and it has a very light texture that helps grip when we are setting angle behind the mirror. Seams line up, corners are finished, nothing feels too sharp on your finger. Branding is also subtle here with this Torvo screened on one side panel. So the whole unit remains stealthy once it is up high on the windshield. Look close at the face around the lens, and you will notice a diagonal micro-texture frame. It is not just a styling line, it also breaks reflections at the edge of the glass, so you do not see stray gleam from the dash. The lens barrel has a precise step to it, not a soft mold line, which is a good sign for assembly quality. Up top and underneath, the vents are cut in staggered bars. These are actual vent openings you can see through. That, paired with the supercapacitor power design inside, tells us heat management is a real design choice here, not an afterthought. On the bottom edge, we can see a row of 4 physical keys with raised icons. The travel is short and the click is clean, so you can feel a press through your fingertip without looking. The spacing seems wide enough, so we didn't have to face fat finger 2 buttons at once, even with winter gloves. The button caps have just enough texture to catch a thumb without slipping. We didn't feel any cheap wobble while pressing them, and they do not scrape the housing at the end of travel. The tactile click hits before the bottom of the press, which helps when you are driving and do not want to push hard. Even small things like the chamfer around the microSD slot matter here. It lets you press the card with a nail, even if you keep your fingers short. Spin the camera and the I/O is straightforward. On one side, you get a Type-C port labeled Type-C for power, a microSD slot that sits flush and clicks home with purpose, and a 3.5mm AV-in jack for the rear camera lead. The ports sit far enough from the hinge that the cables do not fight the mount angle. Strain relief on the leads is proper, so the jacket does not kink where it meets the plug. The mount deserves its own look. It is a compact adhesive plate on a short, stiff hinge with a brushed metal pad on top. The hinge felt a bit stiff, but we don't think anyone tinkers with it that much. So, some resistance helps keep it stable. You set your angle, and it stays where you left it. There is no slow droop over a week. Because the mount sits close to the glass, the camera disappears behind the mirror from the driver's seat. The base footprint is modest, so it does not hog windshield real estate. The metal pad is easy to clean before sticking, and once it is on, the body slides into the shoe with a positive snap. If you have ever lived with a floppy mount, you know how big these little details are. Flip the unit around, and the 3.2-inch IPS screen takes up the back. It is bright enough to frame the view on a sunny day, without cupping a hand over it, and the anti-glare layer diffuses reflections instead of turning the panel into a mirror. Off-axis visibility is solid, so a passenger can look over and still read a menu without leaning into your lap. Fonts are simple and legible. Power up, and we can see the live preview. One click opens the menu. The first page holds the controls drivers touch most. Resolution, which are 2K and 4K, loop length, time-lapse on-off with interval, sound recording toggle, G-sensor sensitivity, and the date GPS watermarks. Keep scrolling and all the rear view controls live together. Rear preview off, preview mirror, video mirror, or mirror all. That grouping makes sense because you will usually adjust those as a set. License plate entry sits right nearby, so you can stamp your plate in the overlay without hunting through a different category. Display and audio options line up in a logical run. Screensaver timeout, overall volume, key click sound, speaker level, and the boot sound. If you want a silent startup at 5 a.m., you can actually make the whole thing quiet in one pass. Language support covers English plus several regional sets. Time and location live together too. Date, time, GPS test to confirm a fix, time zone picker, speed calibration, and a quick flip between MPH and KPH for people who drive across borders. Maintenance is grouped at the end. Wi-Fi toggle, app pairing, format SD, reset to defaults, and firmware version. Nothing feels mislabeled. Nothing is buried 3 screens deep. It reads like someone actually used the UI before shipping it. The rear camera module matches the main unit in finish and tone, so the system looks consistent front to back. The cable jacket is matte, not glossy, which helps it grip where you tuck it into a headliner seam. The connector at the rear camera end seats firmly. There is no spinning barrel, no "is it in all the way" feeling. Heat and power design are part of the physical story. The TD3 uses a supercapacitor rather than a lithium cell. That means no battery swell, no soft pouch sitting against a PCB, and no premature death after a summer of hot parking lots. Pair that with the vent pattern, and the body never gets uncomfortably hot in normal use. It warms up, then levels. Again, not a flashy spec, but it is exactly what keeps a dashcam alive long term. With the hardware out of the way, the interface continues on the phone. We connect to the camera's 5G Wi-Fi, and the live feed pops up right away. The layout is clean. 2 obvious tabs at the bottom: Camera File and Camera Settings. Camera File shows clips as thumbnails with timestamps, and the system saves in short segments. That choice matters because it lets us jump to the moment we need without scrubbing a 10-minute block. Tap once, watch, and if we need a copy, download in seconds straight to the phone. No card removal, no card reader. In camera settings, we see almost the same labels and order as on the camera. That one-to-one mapping is what makes the app feel transparent. You are not learning a new UI just to change loop length or flip the rear preview. Now, we did say performance is not the headline here, but a few practical notes round out the feel of the dashcam. Footage records in 4K resolution and 30 frames per second. On bright days, it holds color without turning the sky white. Street signs stay readable. Plates in front are clear. The view is wide enough to see activity creeping in from the next lane without bending the edges into a bubble. Under patchy light, trees, overpasses, stop and go, the always-on WDR keeps the scene even, so you are not bouncing between too dark and too bright frames. After dark, under streetlights and storefronts, plates are often legible as cars pull through your lane. Headlights do not wash the whole image, and brake lights hold detail. On truly dark side streets, you will see some grain, but shapes, colors, and movement are still useful, and you usually pick a plate as soon as it crosses into better light. The rear unit does what a rear needs to do. Clear in daylight, covers the lane behind, plus the edges of the ones next to you. And at night it shows more texture than blur, with enough detail to call out tailgaters and taps in a lit lot. So if you value solid hand feel, a clean look on the glass, and a menu system that just makes sense, and you want video that is crisp by day and reliably usable at night, the TD3 fits well. It is not chasing 60 frames per second or elite low-light plate capture, and it does not pretend to. What it does is stay cool with a supercapacitor, hold angle on a stiff hinge, give you a readable screen and logical menus, and back it up with daytime clarity plus night footage that holds together anywhere there is reasonable light. For most daily drivers, that mix, steady build, simple interface, clear evidence when it counts, makes this an easy pick. If you need top-tier midnight plates at speed, look higher. If you want a dependable witness that feels sorted in the hand and behaves the same way on screen, this is the one we would live with.